A child's voice suddenly rang out. "Mommy!" She froze, her eyes widening in shock as she mumbled, "That's impossible." Epna didn't have time to think any further and rushed toward the sound of the voice. Epna hastily pushed open the ajar door, carefully leaning in to look inside. Inside, she looked around, confused. What in the world? I'm positive I heard a kid's voice. But all that was here was a staircase leading down. Her steps faltered. I should probably call for someone. But this could be a situation where every second is critical. Epna hurried down the stairs. "I have to go!" Her hand unintentionally brushed against something on the wall. Epna picked up the paper, confused. What is this? It's almost like it's inviting me to read it. Suddenly her eyes flew open, her gaze filled with surprise. This is the temple's crest. Epna quickly tucked the paper into her sleeve. There was also an incredibly ancient-looking magic circle. I'd better take this just in case. She cautiously stepped forward. She called out softly, "Is anyone there?" Her hand flew to her nose as her breath hitched, and she gasped in horror. The smell of blood! She froze, her eyes wide at the sight laid out before her. Right in front of her were splattered bloodstains and discarded shackles. Her throat tightened. Impossible! A shadowy figure shifted in the shadows. Epna flinched and spoke up. "Is someone there? I should get out of here." But it was as if something was gripping that person's ankle. As she drew closer, her body froze. The man let out a tired sigh. Yeah, what a pain. Such a damn nuisance. He casually lifted a cigarette to his lips. Their eyes met, and both she and he froze. The corners of Johann's lips curved into an enigmatic smile. That handsome face appeared right before. Epna was dumbfounded, her eyes wide open and unblinking. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out. She said softly, "Commander." Johann replied, "Miss Epna, I never expected to run into you here." Epna responded quietly, "Same here." He said, "This place is dangerous, teacher. Let me walk you out. You don't look very well either." Johann slowly moved closer. He gently raised his hand to touch her shoulder, but Epna instantly swatted it away, making the air grow heavy. There was a moment of awkwardness between them. She glanced at the blood-stained wall, her voice shaking slightly. "What is all this?" Johann just stared at her. Epna quickly explained, I was just wandering around the locker room area. I didn't want to get dusty and seem impolite. My apologies. I guess I ended up being much more impolite anyway." His face remained cold, the smile on his lips just a veil to hide his own trembling. "Just say something, anything." He finally spoke. "Teacher, there are many dangerous things here. This place was once a slave market," Epna replied softly. "I know. I just wanted to see for myself if this disgusting place was completely demolished." Johann lowered his head. "It is. I took care of cleaning it all up personally," she said in surprise. "No wonder Marin is so enthusiastic about cleaning the classroom. You must have taught her well, Commander." His voice turned cold. "But what I cleaned up wasn't dirt, it was people." Epna blurted out, "You cleaned up the slave traders? So it was you who turned this place into a pile of rubble, Commander." Johann offered a gentle smile, one that was as beautiful as it was unsettling. Her breath hitched, and she pleaded internally, "Don't smile so handsomely when you say such terrifying things. I only dropped by because I was choosing a gift for Marin. I was trying to figure out what that child would love the most. Just look at you, being deliberately." Changing the subject, he handed her something and asked, "Could you take a look at this? It's a music box, right? It's so cute. I'm sure Marin will love it." Johann replied, "Yeah, I really hope so." His subordinate hurried over. "Commander, we've found the escape route of the runaway slave traders." Johann calmly replied, "Good, where is it?" The man then lowered his voice. "It seems to be related to the Saintess." Epna got curious. "What are they talking about? I can't quite hear them." He waved his hand dismissively. "Don't worry about it. Let's continue the search for now." The man bowed respectfully. "Yes, sir." She cursed inwardly. "Damn it, I couldn't hear a thing." Johann turned to her and said, "Teacher, should we go somewhere else?" Epna quickly replied, "Oh, I'm sorry. I've been chattering away at the Knight's headquarters. I must be a bother. I'll be taking my leave now." He hesitated. Teacher, if it's all right, could you?" She looked at him and gave a bright smile. "Yes?" However, the words he was about to say seemed to get stuck in his throat. He lifted his foot, revealing a splotchy bloodstain on the ground. A cold glint appeared in his eyes. "Never mind, it's nothing. Get home safely," Alpha said calmly. "All right then, I'll see you at the school festival." She slowly walked up the stairs. From behind, his eyes silently followed her, never leaving her form. He stood there silently, lost in thought. Suddenly Johann noticed a piece of paper on the ground. He picked it up, slowly read its contents, and then chuckled. "You really do keep me guessing." The Saintess. Time flew by, and the day of the school event finally arrived. At Roneidel Kindergarten, Epna sighed wearily. It's finally here, a Saturday of overtime. She opened the door to the hall. It's finally time. When the children saw Epna, they shouted with joy, "It's Teacher Epna! Teacher is here!" She walked up to the stage. Smiling, she spoke to the parents and students. "All right, is everyone ready?" The enthusiastic parents shouted in unison. "Yes," she announced. "Then let's begin casting the roles for this year's school festival play." Another peaceful day at the noble kindergarten. In the classroom was a young boy named Philip. He held up a handkerchief, his voice full of pride. "My most treasured item is this handkerchief from my mom. When I was little, she used it to wipe my face. I always carry it with me and think of her." His parents, sitting in the audience, couldn't hold back their tears. "Oh, Philip, Mommy's so proud of you." Epna clapped in praise beside him. "Great job, Philip." All right, next student. After finishing his speech, the little boy politely bowed to everyone. The next one to come up was a scholarly-looking boy with glasses. What I brought today is an apple that I grew myself. When this world ends, I will plant this apple tree. After hearing this, Epna couldn't help but think to herself, why does that sound so familiar? But on the outside, she maintained a professional smile and exclaimed, so cool, what a wonderful presentation. Looking at the children below, Epna felt a sense of relief. Thankfully, the children were still innocent and kind. They didn't criticize or get jealous of each other's presentations. They genuinely knew how to enjoy them. I want to touch it too. No, my grandpa made this for me. 5-year-olds are usually easily distracted, but they were all listening intently. Feeling proud of the children's presentations, she paused for a moment before calling the next name, Bantander. Hearing his name, the little boy stood up and slowly walked forward. When he arrived, Bantander reached into his pocket and fumbled for something, as Epna watched him intently, wondering. 5-year-olds are usually easily distracted, but they were all listening intently. Even His Highness seems to want Bantander to be the lead role. I wonder what he brought. She stared at it in disbelief. This is chocolate, and it's half eaten. Bantander lisped out. Chocowate! Epna facepalmed, speechless. Bantander, is this really the best thing you could bring? Seeing the treat, the kids below immediately started clamoring. I want some! Me too! Me too! She couldn't help but smile at them. It was just like watching someone hand out hamburgers during a class president election. Some things never change. All right, everyone back to your seats now. Next up, Maxon. What is your presentation about? Hearing his name, the boy strode forward confidently, wiping his mouth as he passionately declared. The thing I love most is the people of our beloved empire. Epna's lip twitched as she thought to herself. A textbook answer worthy of a prince, but to say it with a mouthful of chocolate. Just then, Marilyn suddenly raised her hand. Teacher, Marilyn wants to present too. Epna nodded. Perfect timing. It's your turn now, Marilyn. Meanwhile, she tried to recall something. Come to think of it, the Knight Commander bought a music box. It was very beautiful. Maybe Marilyn will bring that out. But contrary to Epna's guess, the little girl ran forward with her arms wide open, hugging her and smiling brightly. The thing I love most is our beautiful teacher. Mary loves teacher the most. Epna couldn't help but feel touched. Before Mary could say another word, the rest of the kids rushed forward too. Mary, that's not fair. I love the teacher the most. I want to change my answer to Miss Epna too. No way, I called it first. Me! The kids rushed forward to hug her skirt, pulling it back and forth as they fought over her. She was on the verge of tears. These kids, I'm really happy, but at this rate, my skirt is going to fall off. After the commotion, the children held a secret vote to decide the lead role. The parents below were on the edge of their seats, all thinking, please let it be my child. Epna announced from the podium. The votes have all been counted. The child who will be our lead role for this year's play is. Her hesitant voice heightened the suspense, and the adults below sat in silence, clenching their fists and swallowing hard. Marilyn looked incredibly eager, but Maxon beside her was sweating with anxiety. Finally, Epna announced the name. Congratulations, Bantander. The little boy was still busy nibbling on his chocolate, but looked up in confusion when he heard his name. She gently prompted the children. Everyone, let's congratulate him. Instantly, all the kids turned to look at Bantander and broke into thunderous applause. But at that very moment, a loud wail broke out. It was Philip, sobbing as he wiped away his tears, pouting as he choked out, but I was supposed to be the lead role. My presentation was the best. Epna rushed over to comfort the boy. Philip, in a play, it's not just the lead role that shines. Everyone gets to be brilliant and wonderful. But Philip still stammered. But, she sighed. I mean, just look at the clueless Bantander. I knew it. Even a villain can be just as charismatic as the main character. That made it hard for me to control myself. Just then, Banthunder's voice rang out, making Philip stop crying. You be the main character. I don't want to do it, it's scary. So you do it, okay? Epna turned to Banthunder in disbelief and asked him again. You really don't want to be the main character? The little boy nodded. Yeah. She was stunned. No child had ever given up the lead role before. But since Banthunder had made up his mind, she had no reason to try and convince him. Epna turned to Philip and said, Philip, you should thank Banthunder, don't you think? The little guy hesitantly spoke up. Thank you, Bantander. With the matter settled, Epna stood up, clapped, and continued her speech. Thanks to his kindness, Philip has become the main character. Now, let's announce the other roles. No matter what, Bantander is destined to walk the path of a villain, but he seems so gentle today. Alright, I have to try my best not to get left behind. That was my determination back then, but right now? Epna was completely worn out and staggering. I think I'm going to pass out. She drew a line on the floor, and imagined it was a narrow bridge, pretending a deep river was flowing underneath it, then watched how. The two children crossed from opposite ends of the bridge. It was just a simple warm-up game to assess their acting skills and personalities. But Marilyn and Maxon were constantly pulling hair and tugging clothes while arguing. Move! Marilyn is going first! You move, you slowpoke! Marilyn is not a slowpoke. Then if you're not a slowpoke, you're just an idiot, a total idiot. Epna, with tired, dark circles under her eyes, pulled the two children apart. Her voice was weak. You two, don't fight. It was a grueling training schedule for 5-year-olds. Who would have guessed that no matter how many years went by, their battles would always be this intense? A smug laugh rang out, and she tiredly turned her head. Who is it now? Aristi was covering her mouth and laughing. and stepped forward. So we meet here, Bantander. I, Aristi, will get my revenge for losing the vote for the main character. Across from her, Bantander was naively sucking his thumb. I just want to get by. Aristi suddenly stuck out one hand and said, look here. Epna leaned forward warily. Don't tell me these kids are about to fight again. But it wasn't what she thought. The girl was much trickier. Behold, this is the chocolate that Banthunder loves so much. The boy looked down, puzzled. But, is nothing there? Aristi calmly retorted, impossible. This is chocolate that only good children can see. Does that mean Bantander is a bad kid? Hearing this, the boy was stunned, his face frozen in hesitation. The girl continued to tempt him. So, now you'll take this and let me pass, won't you? Bantander was reluctant but finally decided to give in. All right, Bantander is a good boy. Aristi was instantly delighted and cheered. Very good. Please move out of the way. Epna watched, at a loss for words. Is that girl really getting Bantander to accept an imaginary chocolate bar? He then painstakingly leaned to one side, his legs wobbling as he lost his balance and falling face first onto the floor. Aristi, on the other hand, passed by easily. The boy cried out, Teacher, I fell into the water. Epna rushed over to play along. Oh dear, I'll save you right away. A sigh came from behind. Oh dear. Has it really come to this? How can we not worry about the future of the Empire? She helped Bantander up and replied unconsciously, Please don't say that. It's normal for children this age to fall. It's a normal part of growing up, Your Majesty. As she said this, Epna seemed to realize something, and she froze. Wait a minute. Looking at the person behind her, Epna panicked. Your Majesty, why are you here? She forcefully dragged him outside, and after a short distance, Epna stopped to question him. Your Majesty, what are you doing at a daycare? He was in the mood to tease her. You've got quite a grip, teacher. Have you ever considered joining the Imperial Knights? You have a talent for it, Epna explained flusteredly. I apologize for my rudeness, Your Majesty, but if a guardian of the nation suddenly shows up, the children might get scared, especially since it's the Emperor himself. Did something happen to Maxon? No, he said with a calm smile. I just told you, didn't I? I'm worried about the future of the Empire. I thought I needed to calm my mind here to be able to work. Could you offer me a cup of tea? Epna was still a bit bewildered. Why? Would you be contemplating the future of the Empire in a daycare of all places? And then a memory suddenly came back to her. At that time, her eyes had widened as she asked, The counseling room? What are you planning to do there? He had answered honestly. Worry about the future of the Empire. The stability of the people? It would be good to also care about the welfare of those little tykes. Back then, Epna had thought to herself that talking about kids in such a philosophical way was quite fitting for a daycare. So, she herself had offered, If you come, I will serve you tea, as long as you have the director's permission. Back in the present, she was still trying to find an excuse to refuse. I'm sorry, but about getting the director's permission. He immediately cut her off. I already got permission. She was quite agreeable, in fact. Left with no other choice, she could only let out a sigh. Let's meet in the counseling room after the children are done with their practice. In the afternoon, after practice time, on the table, trays of exquisite and beautiful desserts were delicately arranged. Beside them was a cup of hot tea, perfect for an afternoon tea time. Epna's eyes widened at the sight. This is the dessert set from Simsi Ong Salon. That's so hard to get, even if you wait in line. He let out a small cough. I'm not fond of sweets myself. This is all for you. In that very moment, Epna immediately bowed a full 90 degrees with enthusiasm. I hope you'll visit often in the future, Guardian. He nodded. Yes, make yourself comfortable. Just listen. No. You're already sitting? Of course. Faced with the allure of the hard-to-get sweets, Epna had already sat down at the table to dig in. He then pulled up a chair and sat down next to her. He asked suggestively, By the way, teacher, would you be all right with being seen alone with me in this daycare? Of course. I'm more than willing to cooperate with any potential scandals that might arise. Epna just stared at him with wide eyes while chewing. Unsure if she didn't understand or was deliberately ignoring the romantic implication, she answered honestly, The director already gave her permission, and all the other teachers have gone home. He feigned disappointment. Well, that's a shame then. By the way, don't you think you should change this uncomfortable chair? Epna tilted her head and offered, There are spare chairs in the teacher's lounge. Should I bring one over? He immediately refused. Don't bother. I just came today to check out the place I'll be frequenting from now on, his words made. 1,000 question marks pop up in her head. A place you'll be frequenting? He shrugged. Did you know? An emperor carries countless worries. They won't simply fade away after just 1 or 2 visits. Then he suddenly leaned in close to Epna, his deep, low voice whispering softly in her ear. So I hope you'll take good care of me from now on. After hearing that, the teacher fell silent for a moment, looking at the clean plates on the table. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to ask the director to make him leave, would it? He chuckled. You're pretty funny. Just like that, the day ended quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was the next morning, a scream echoing through the room. A scream filled with despair. The girl was sprawled on the floor, her soul feeling like it was about to leave her body, her hand even scribbling out a last will and testament. Seeing this, Epna jumped. Miss Philena has fainted, and after that, a series of problems arose, surrounding her. Miss Epna, there are typos in all the school festival invitations. The uniform tailor said they can't meet the deadline. What should we do? The planning documents are also out of order. Epna's new day completely fell apart, and she collapsed onto the floor in despair. Should I just collapse from mental and physical exhaustion to get a legally protected, legitimate break with good workers' compensation? But Epna knew that if she gave up now, the school festival would be totally screwed. Pulling herself together, she stood up and started, busily giving orders. Get Miss Felina to the hospital immediately. Contact the printing shop right away to complain about the typos. And demand they reprint them urgently. As for the costumes, let's find another workshop that can meet the deadline and place a new order, even if the design is different. I've already made a list of a few workshops. I'll review the planning documents and fix the schedule. Just hand them to me first. The other teachers watched her draw up a long plan, talking non-stop, and couldn't help but be impressed. Miss Epna is amazing. She's truly the pillar of Roneidel preschool. They quickly regained their spirits and charged forward. That's right, everyone. Don't let the work crush you. Let's work together for the school festival. Even if my body collapses, I'll give it my all. A friendly warning. Work hard, but please don't imitate this. Epna, at this moment, raised her hands high to boost everyone's morale. Let's all work our hardest for the school festival. And so, time passed amidst a series of troubles. The Roneidel Preschool School Festival began. On a table were cups and boxes of things. It seemed to be backstage. 1,000 question marks pop up in her head. A place you'll be frequenting? He shrugged. Did you know? While Epna was drinking some water, a teacher came to inform her. Miss Epna, the speaker system is set up. Are you ready? She took a deep breath, then turned and walked away. Amidst the noisy chatter below, Epna began her speech. Thank you all for waiting. The lights will be turned off soon and the auditorium will go dark. Please watch your step and remain quiet in the wings. The children were talking excitedly. Below, a parent made a request. Please make sure the kids look beautiful when they appear. Art teachers. The man smiled and nodded. I've covered this preschool's festival 4 times already, don't worry. In a corner, 2 other parents. We're sitting next to each other, chatting. Young Master Huseli is coming out first, right? Yes, my boy has been practicing his dance. At home, the children's stamina has improved so much. My child too. Oh my. Just then, the auditorium lights suddenly went out and everything went dark. The biggest event of the first half of the year at Roneidel Preschool. The stage that exhausted the teachers the most, built on the blood, sweat, and tears of everyone involved. Epna stood in the spotlight and announced, and now, we will officially begin the Roneidel Nursery's School Festival. However, something unexpected happened. The hall doors burst open, and a group of people marched in wearing full armor. Epna froze. Why are the knights from the Grand Temple here? They marched onto the stage together, making her panic. Wait, this is a nursery. Why are there armed soldiers? The spears pointed toward Epna. One of the knights spoke up. Lady Epna Windester, we have received an important tip that you are a dark mage. You must come with us. Epna's eyes widened in disbelief. What? What are you talking about? Without letting her explain, they moved forward and grabbed Epna's arms. The crowd below began to whisper. Those are the knights who report directly to the Saintess? What's going on? A dark mage? Epna struggled, trying to explain. A dark mage? I don't know anything about that. What are you doing? An important tip? This is ridiculous. The knight cut her off. It was the Saintess herself who pointed you out. Epna froze, a familiar face appearing in her mind. Lily. Her hands were restrained by the knight. Please cooperate with the detention and investigation, my lady. The purple orb in her hand fell, rolling across the floor. Epna shouted indignantly. I'm not a dark mage. But in response, she was only met with a cold attitude from the knight. You can tell that to the Saintess. Let's go. The people below were confused. What did he say? What's happening, Miss Epna? She was dragged away without being able to explain anything. Finally, Epna tried to make one request. If the children see me being dragged away like this, they'll be scared. So, I will walk on my own. But they were resolute. That has nothing to do with us, my lady. Who's to say you won't try to escape? At this point, Epna could only helplessly bite her lip. Backstage, Marin saw this and panicked. The little girl quickly pushed the person behind her. Hey Maxon, you're sick. Go get the teacher. The boy retorted. They're people from the temple. You have to go. Just go. Marin waved her arms frantically. My dad is away treating people. Maxon was just as flustered. My older brother said he's busy too. Just as the children were panicking, a steady voice suddenly spoke up. Ban Tanner, the fearful little boy asked. Big brother, what about our teacher? Caden pressed his lips together, not answering. By now, Epna had been taken away and locked in the temple's dungeon. She sat on a chair, her hands tightly bound, unable to escape. Ouch! A torch flared to life, illuminating the brick patterns of the dungeon. Lily walked in, with a look of disgust, waving her hand. Can't you clean this place up? It's so irritating to look at. The knight hurriedly replied, I'll see to it at once, Saintess. She walked over to Epna, covering her mouth to feign surprise. Oh my, sister, it looks like you had a difficult journey. She looked up warily. Lily, just get to the point. Did you claim I'm a dark mage? Even if that were true, what right do you have to drag a noble here like this? You don't seem scared at all, Lillian. After hearing this, she simply feigned fixing her hair. I came because I was truly worried about you, sister. And what's all this talk about being a noble? As if someone like you could be called a Windester. I discovered a new power a few days ago. Father was very pleased, and you still don't have any powers, do you? How pathetic. Epna stared at her without saying a word, but in her mind, she was thinking something else. No, I just took down a monster not too long ago. Right? But I probably shouldn't mention that right now, because of what's important at the moment. She questioned, Think hard, Lillian. Couldn't you be mistaken in thinking I'm a dark magician? You've always been so prone to misunderstandings, haven't you? Pretending to be the real daughter of our family. That really gets on my nerves. Lillian's voice grew cold. What did you just say? Epna smiled mockingly. Have you ever been entered into my mother's side of the family registry? Don't tell me you still haven't. Been added, right? After wanting it so badly. At this point, Lillian couldn't hold back her anger, raising her hand high, intending to slap her. What did you just say? Epna's gaze on her was firm. Looking into her eyes, Lillian suddenly pulled her hand back. No, that's not right. The torch in the prison cell continued to flicker, and she suddenly calmed down. Thank you, big sister. You're as arrogant as ever. Now I can question you about why you're a dark magician without any guilt. Epna's face darkened. What are you smiling about? Go ahead and search me. See if you can even find a single speck of dust on me. Lillian then took out an object and held it up. This piece of paper. You still remember it, don't you? What? A memory of the paper with the strange drawing that Epna had found before flashed through her mind, and she immediately asked, where did you get this? Lillian smiled nonchalantly and replied, I'm the one who put it there, so if a dark magician touches it, I'll know immediately, Epna explained. It was already like that even before I touched it, Lillian then admitted. I was the one. Who made it? It reacted the moment you touched it, big sister. Epna wanted to scream. What nonsense are you talking? Lillian gestured towards the person behind her holding a book, and this was also found among your belongings. It's written in a strange, unreadable language. And on the last page, there's even an ancient dark magic symbol. Seeing the book, Epna just wanted to say, that's just a side story from the past that I happened to find. Why is this becoming an issue? Suddenly she remembered something. Hello, dear readers. A lot of people were curious about the dark magic symbol, so I tried drawing it myself, though it's a bit clumsy. Epna was so shocked, she felt her soul leaving her body. Damn that author. Seeing her like that, Lillian grew even more confident. It seems even my arrogant big sister is speechless in the face of evidence. Now, knights, Epna's inner voice wanted to clarify. No, it's because I'm too stunned and outraged. At the author, she turned and gave the order. Please interrogate that dark magician until she confesses. Be thorough. She was at her wit's end. The knight nodded. Understood, Saintess. Epna's face darkened. Lillian, you really have these knights wrapped around your finger. That knight then grabbed a whip and walked towards her. Confess obediently. Emna Belchester. Glancing at that whip, Epna gulped nervously. Is that a torture device? If something goes wrong, I could actually die. Her hands trembled slightly, clenching tightly. Should I just confess? Enduring torture while staying silent is something only the main character in a movie would do. Epna was silent, fighting an internal battle. The light from the torch still flickered faintly on the wall. She suddenly recalled the smiles of the teachers at Roneidel Daycare. Miss Epna, thanks to you, the children's acceptance rate into the academy has gone up. The daycare. Our lesson plan received the highest marks. And then there were the innocent eyes of the children, saying, Teacher, I like you the most. Me too, I like you second best, right after her. Epna's entire body looked so small as she bowed her head low. Then a voice suddenly demanded a confession. The knight urged him on. Do it, that's right. Belchester was supposed to say it, but Epna suddenly lifted her head, laughing scornfully as if to say, So what? Do whatever you want, you useless knights. The sharp cracks of a whip echoed through the dark prison. After some time, Lillian returned to this place. Sister, are you feeling more inclined to confess now? Epna, her body covered in bruises, still forced her head up. Lillian, go to hell! Hearing these words, she calmly put on a fake smile. Lillian leaned forward and continued her order. It seems this still isn't enough. Sir Helix, please continue. He gave a firm salute and replied, Yes, Saintess. Epna's eyes squeezed shut, waiting for the whip to rain down. Her hands clenched until they trembled, and a piercing sound rang out. When Epna opened her eyes again, she saw a familiar figure, Duke Hildebrand. A gunshot rang out, shattering the dangerous situation as the lock on the prison door fell and broke into pieces. It lay starkly on the cold tile floor. The surrounding space was enveloped in a hazy white smoke. A man stepped inside, a gleaming silver revolver still in his hand, his aura overwhelming, his appearance so cold and stern it made one afraid to even breathe. Duke Hildebrand. The moment she saw Duke Hildebrand, Lily immediately ran towards him, her face full of grievance, her voice suddenly trembling, as if she was about to cry. Her glistening eyes were wet with tears, just waiting to fall. What is it? I was startled by the gunshot. I was so scared. My whole body is shaking. Hugh Devon frowned without saying a word, his eyes fixed on the face that was so full of fear, yet so incredibly beautiful, like a lily blooming in the sunlight. Lillian continued to speak before Duke Hugh Devon. You suddenly broke down the door and barged in, and you don't even plan to explain? Or do anything at all? Even if you are a duke, I still truly... Before she could finish her sentence, Hildevan, who had been silent until now, suddenly slapped away the hands that were about to touch him. His face and eyes held an unprecedented sternness, as if he were clearly drawing a line between them. Your Grace, he spoke, his voice cold and distant. Saintess, you should address me as Duke Hildevan. Your Grace? Lily's face was suddenly filled with fear as she timidly replied, I'm sorry. He strode closer, and Lily's body reflexively took a step back. He spoke calmly. I came here to do my job, just as the Saintess was doing her duty a moment ago. He raised a hand to his chin thoughtfully. His tone was calm, but every word was as sharp as a knife. Saintess Lillian, during the process of binding Emna Belchester, traces of illegal magic techniques were discovered. Lillian immediately panicked and retorted, What? What are you talking about? I don't understand. The shackles you used to imprison Emna Belchester have been confirmed to be illegal magic artifacts. A flicker of confusion crossed Lily's eyes. and she turned to look at a soldier standing nearby. Her face was filled with helplessness. "Sir Helix?" Her voice was powerless, as if blaming him. The soldier beside her also began to panic. As if caught red-handed doing something wrong, the saintess claimed, "I only bought those because I heard they were the real deal." Hildevan paid no mind to their little act and continued, "For that reason you must come with us for questioning." The stubborn saintess Lillian was terrified but still obstinately retorted, "This is the Grand Temple. If you take me, the goddess will be enraged. You are making a mistake." Duke Hildevan remained completely calm, paying no mind to Lillian's threat. He swung the gun in his hand, stepping closer to Epna, and I wondered as he knelt down before the chair where she was being held, looking up at her face covered in wounds from being tortured. Epna came to as well, her tired eyes looking at him hazily. "Duke Hildevan, why are you here?" Her breathing was faint as she struggled to say, "You're supposed to be watching the Venti ID performance right now." Epna came to as well, her tired eyes looking at him hazily. "Duke Hildevan, why are you here?" Hildevan looked at her, his eyes filled with unconcealable pity and worry. "Saintess, I don't believe in gods," she answered tiredly. "I feel like I'm going to die. Are you telling me to kill that knight?" His voice was casual, as if he were just making small talk. Epna was speechless, saying in despair, "Please refrain from such morbid jokes." On the other side, Johann Dietz quietly appeared behind Lillian and called out her name, Saintess Lillian. Lillian jumped and turned around. "Sir Dietz." His face was stern, looking quite angry. "Because you acted on mere suspicion, the High Priest is furious. Make sure you're well for our next meeting. It would be quite troublesome if you were to feign illness to avoid it." With that, Johann turned and walked away, leaving a guilty Lillian behind with her head bowed. He walked towards Duke Hildevan and Epna, his voice laced with worry and pity. "Miss Epna, I'm just a commoner in pain from being tortured." "Torture?" Johann shot a cold glance towards the knight. "Make sure you're well for our next meeting. It would be quite troublesome if you were to feign illness to avoid it." With that, Johann turned and walked away, leaving a guilty Lillian behind with her head bowed. "Ah!" Ignoring him, Johann turned and said, "First of all, Miss Epna's condition." Hildevan looked at him, and his arms holding Epna suddenly tightened, as if pulling her closer, showing he had no intention of handing her over to Johann. Johann, who was about to step forward to take Epna, stopped when he saw this and said nothing. Hildevan lowered his head. To look at Epna, to leave someone in the very place they were just tortured this badly. "Do you think I'm that stupid?" "You are not fine, miss. You need to be treated with healing magic right now." Hildevan disagreed with Johann. Johann, who was about to step forward to take Epna, stopped when he saw this and said nothing. Hildevan lowered his head. He walked towards Duke Hildevan and Epna, his voice laced with worry and pity. "Miss Epna." Hildevan paid no mind to the sarcasm in Johann's voice and retorted, "A person who was beaten, with a whip containing crude holy power, cannot be treated using more holy power." Caught between them, Epna felt hopelessly speechless and thought to herself, "Can't we just slap some antiseptic on this and be done with it, or what?" After a moment of arguing, Johann said, "In the time we've spent arguing, I could have already healed her. Let's stop this pointless debate." Hildevan also backed down, not wanting to continue, causing more unnecessary trouble. "Fine." He gently helped Epna over to Johann, and after handing her over to him, Johann began to use his holy power to heal her wounds, making sure Epna would have no problems. Hildevan turned to look at the Helix soldier, who was still holding the whip imbued with holy power, that had been used to torture her, as if he wanted to settle the score with him. His voice was laced with anger and killing intent. "This feeling is so filthy. I don't know anything." The soldier hurriedly threw the whip in his hand to the ground, smiling obsequiously. "This thing was just lying on the ground, so I just picked it up." Suddenly, a familiar voice came from a distance. It was Zidane and the soldiers from the Magic Technology Control Bureau. He picked up the discarded whip, his voice feigning innocence with a hint of sarcasm. "Oh my, this is clearly an unregistered weapon. I thought I was going to die of boredom while waiting, but it looks like we found some physical evidence." A soldier next to him quickly responded, "Hurry, before word gets out." Epna looked at the newly arrived soldiers. "What is this? This aura is even stronger than holy power." She felt surrounded by handsome soldiers, each with a powerful presence. Epna thought blissfully, "Did I die and go to heaven? Why is there a whole idol group here?" Johann, who was healing her, was speechless at the sight. "Miss, you can't pass out on me now!" The group of Dyers then approached where Duke Hugh Devon and the soldier under Lillian's command were standing. "How unlucky are these guys to get caught by the captain?" Zidane remarked, his voice full of mockery. Hildevan reminded him, "Quiet, there's a patient here." Epna looked at the group and asked her guardian, "Who are they?" "They're soldiers from the Control Bureau of Magic Technology, under Duke Hildevan's command." Johann replied nonchalantly, "To put it bluntly, they're just a bunch of slackers." Zidane looked at the soldier being held by Duke Hildevan, sizing him up curiously. Hildevan noticed Zidane's expression and asked, "Zidane, what is it? Hey, this guy's face looks familiar. I've seen him. Somewhere before? A bar or a restaurant?" "No, that's not it." Zidane racked his brain, trying to recall where he might have seen the soldier. He moved closer to him, looking him over from left to right. The terrified soldier looked like he was about to cry, "Get away from me!" Suddenly, something in Zidane's mind clicked, and he remembered where he had seen him. "Captain, don't you remember him?" Hildevan looked doubtful, not immediately understanding what Zidane was referring to. "Explain." "He's that guy, you know, the one." Hearing Zidane's words, Hildevan also suddenly remembered who this was. He frowned at the soldier, his voice cold. "I see, so he's the deserter." After he said that, the Saul Dyer panicked, his eyes filled with despair. The atmosphere in the room instantly froze. Epna looked over curiously. A deserter? Someone from the Magic Technology Control Bureau group suddenly spoke up. I remember now. He's the drunk who beat up his comrade and then deserted, right? Zedon chimed in. That's him, isn't it? His name was Joel George? No, it was John Harlick. Zedon tilted his head, looking at the soldier, and continued. That's definitely him. Our superiors have been nagging us endlessly to find this bastard at all costs. He smiled at the man. We've been searching for 4 days straight. He didn't sleep at all, yet here he was, perfectly fine, his hand still gripping the soldier's head. His face was filled with terror and despair. To think he went through all that trouble just to hide in the holy temple in the end. How clever. Hildevan smiled gently, but for some reason, that expression only made the soldier more terrified. He said, what a filthy rat. Saintess, he called out to Lillian, who flinched at the mention of her name. Turning to Lillian, the soldier clung to her like a last hope, crying out for help. Saintess. I have served you with all my heart, Lily replied indifferently. Do whatever you want. What happened with Harley has nothing to do with me. Not wanting to take any responsibility, she tossed him aside like trash. Saintess, spare me. Spare me! The soldier struggled and begged loudly, but no one paid him any attention as the Control Bureau soldiers dragged him away to the dungeons. Save your breath and go to sleep. You have a lot to explain to us later. After the man was dragged away, her guardian, Johan, smiled and said calmly, I apologize. The noise must have been unsettling for you. After completing the treatment, Johan gently helped her sit up. The emergency treatment is done, teacher. Please get some rest, we'll handle the rest. Hearing this, Epna wearily closed her eyes and said weakly, Thank you, guardian. After speaking, she drifted off to sleep, away. Hildevan watched Johan holding Epna in his arms and was about to say something, but a subordinate called out from a distance. Captain, the carriage is ready. He withdrew his gaze and turned to leave. Let's go. A short while later, Epna woke up again. She opened her eyes and looked around. Where am I? Her gaze fell upon Johan, who still had that same gentle expression. I've come to finish treating your deeper wounds. I should apologize beforehand. It's going to hurt a bit. Epna felt exhausted and in pain, but in her mind, she couldn't even focus on this pain. The festival, the school. Johan gently reassured her. It's all right. You have nothing to worry about here. Sunlight from the window shone onto the bed. Johan sat beside her and took her hand. I'll do my absolute best to make sure it doesn't hurt, Epna asked in a daze. So it won't hurt? Johan placed his hand on top of hers. If it hurts, you can just hit me. It's fine. Or curse at me, or even bite me, Epna said weakly. How could I ever? This guardian. Before I could even finish my thought, a wave of pain from an unknown source shot through my entire body. Johan was channeling his holy power. Epna's body trembled uncontrollably as she screamed in agony. It hurts so much. She bit down hard on her hand to stifle her screams, enduring the wave of pain. Johan tried to calm Epna, taking her hand and saying gently, Teacher, it's okay. You're doing fine. It'll feel better soon. It's almost over. Johan looked at the pain-stricken Epna, his eyes full of compassion. The school play. I want to see it. The pain made Epna lower her guard, and she subconsciously voiced her wish. At this, Johan smiled. He comforted her. Of course, teacher. You can see it when you've recovered. We're done now. As he said that, he squeezed her hand tightly, and the holy power that surged through felt like it was going to tear Epna's body apart. The agony was far more terrifying than before, tearing her nightgown in places as Epna let out a series of agonized and desperate screams. When the treatment finally ended, she panted heavily, as if her life had just been given back to her. Johan supported her head, helping her sit up. The pain is gone now, isn't it, teacher? Epna looked at him wearily. This place, Gwar Guardian, she said weakly. I told Johan, I really don't know anything about dark magic. I just happened to find that book by chance. I was curious, so I kept it. She hastily explained as if she was afraid Johan wouldn't believe her. He smiled, his eyes full of trust and concern. The investigation is over now. So then, with tears welling in her eyes, she timidly asked, So I won't be whipped anymore, right? Johan's lips thinned. That will never happen again. He pulled the blanket up for her. After hearing his answer, Epna sighed in relief, her voice shifting from timid to furious. That bastard, I've memorized his face. I'm going to crush him. Johan chuckled along. You're very brave, teacher. Should I help you? Still fuming, she said angrily, No, you don't have to. The guardian shouldn't have to see such filthy things. But where is this? Only then did she have a moment to look around. It was a luxurious room. Johan replied, This is my room in the sanctuary, and you're lying in my bed. Suddenly he stood up, his hand touching Epna's face, his smile gentle yet filled with a dark ambiguity. What is it? Edna's scream echoed through the castle. She scrambled off the bed. I'm sorry. I'm in the guardian's room. I'll leave. I'll go right now, she said in a panic, wanting to get away from this place as fast as she could. Johan calmly pulled her back. Absolutely not. How could a healer let... Suddenly he stood up, his hand touching Epna's face, his smile gentle yet filled with a dark ambiguity. What is it? But, as she spoke, her eyes fell on the ugly scars on Johan's arm. Guardian, your arm is injured? Johan glanced down at his arm. This. Sometimes stray cats wander into the temple. I take them in when they're hurt. I must have gotten scratched then, Epna said worriedly. Oh my, the cat must have been in pain to scratch you. I'm so worried about Marin, she loves animals. Johan placed a hand on her shoulder reassuringly. You don't need to worry, I'll take care of it. Edna was still uneasy, but Marie, Johan cut her off. Teacher, you should get some rest. I will look after the cat. After speaking, he stepped out of the room and closed the door. Before leaving, he didn't forget to add, please get some rest. After leaving the room, he sighed in relief. A close servant was waiting for him. We have confirmed that Saintess Lillian fabricated the evidence. A servant reported to him. What about John Harlick? Harlick? He, the servant said, as if suddenly remembering something. Should I bring him here? To interrogate him? Or since he was originally a deserter, perhaps we should just leave him be? Johan cut in. The servant, as if afraid he'd misheard, asked again. Excuse me? Leave him be? Yes, let him go. He's served his purpose as a display. He rolled up his sleeves, looking at the scars on his arm, because she said she doesn't want me to see such ugly things anymore. In the quiet space, Marilyn's eyes were shut tight, her face flushed, her mouth slightly open, letting out soft, sleepy snores. Epna lay beside her in silence, her expression helpless as she let out a sigh. This scene continued for 7 straight days. She thought with weary resignation, I'm on paid sick leave at the Grand Sanctuary. Just then, a hand gently picked up the little girl. Johan spoke with a soft reproach. Oh my, Lady Marilyn has come to visit teacher again. I told her she needs to rest properly since she's still sick, and yet... He held Marilyn in his arms, his voice deep and warm. My apologies, Teacher Epna. So she decided to accept the attentive care of Sir Dai Saturday. As she saw him off, she said softly, My guard, I already told you this morning, didn't I? Johan's eyes crinkled with a knowing smile. The stew was really delicious, wasn't it? Hearing that, Epna quickly waved her hands in denial. No, that's not it. That's what she said out loud, but in her heart she thought differently. It really was delicious. Across from her, he smiled gently, still holding the little girl in his arms. Johan's expression was calm, but his voice carried a hint of warm reproach. This must be the 100th apology. I told you it's not your fault, so please stop apologizing. Epna looked up, her brilliant blue eyes filled with surprise and confusion. If you already know that, why do you keep apologizing? If you keep this up, I'll be so embarrassed I might just get angry. The room fell silent for a moment. He gently closed his eyes, holding Marin tighter in his arms, his expression still indescribably gentle. Then please, get angry, I'm begging you. His unexpected words made her freeze, her wide eyes unable to hide her confusion. Huh? Epna wondered to herself. So is this your thing or something? In the quiet room, Johan handed her a stack of documents, causing a surprised Epna to ask a question. A mutual agreement, coordination document, and it even has the Emperor's seal? He leaned in and said calmly, That's right. You don't have to read it, teacher, but I figured you'd be curious about how the imperial family is handling this matter. She looked up, her blue eyes wavering slightly. She smiled and said, Thank you for sharing something so important with me. Johan reached out and took the document, replying softly, It's not important at all. He pulled the paper from Epna's hand, folded it neatly, and tossed it behind him. I was just worried your health would decline if you had to read such a dry document, teacher. She watched in a daze, thinking to herself, just as I thought, their relationship is not good at all. A servant entered, bowed, and reported, Sir, the preparations for the teacher's discharge are complete. Johan listened and nodded slightly, his voice calm. I told them to take their time, but this diligence is also a bit of a hassle. He chuckled softly, his smile easing the tension in the room. Well then, I'll step outside while you change, teacher. Epna held up the simple dress and smiled gently. New clothes? Couldn't I have just left in my old clothes? Johan shook his head slightly, a determined glint in his silver eyes. I can't allow you to go outside in such a revealing outfit, teacher. Now, I'll go call for a carriage. He turned to leave the room. The corners of her lips trembled as she spoke. My guard. No, Sir Dai. Saturday Epna hugged the outfit to her chest, her face radiant. With a warm smile and a voice both gentle and sincere, she said, Thank you so much for taking care of me. Faced with her smile, Johan just stood there silently, a complicated glint in his deep blue eyes. He lowered his head slightly, pressing his lips together, before finally speaking in a low voice. Congratulations on your discharge, teacher. The scene changes to the outside of a large, red brick building. It looked ancient under the clear sunlight. Suddenly, a shriek rang out. Oh my goodness, look at you! Belchester pointed. Her eyes were filled with clear worry and surprise. Doesn't the Grand Temple feed its patients or something? You've only just recovered. I've even gained some weight, she thought to herself. But the woman gave Epna no chance to object. She rushed to cup Epna's cheeks in her hands, her eyes filled with concern. You're so skinny! First things first, we need to feed you. I'll make a call with the daycare, and asked for a few more days off for her. Edna quickly shook her head, her voice trembling. No, I'm fine. I've rested enough. I really can't take any more time off. Even though she said that, she was thinking something else entirely. As she lay down on the hospital bed, Edna let out a quiet, contented sigh. I mean, I say that, but this bed is so comfortable. The body pillow is perfect, and the blanket is super soft. Her cheeks flushed red, and her blue eyes sparkled. If they said I needed 2 weeks to recover, that would be totally reasonable. No, I can't. Get a grip, Edna. Don't forget your responsibilities as a teacher. Just then, the door burst open, and a deep voice rang out. Well, what an unsightly mess. Startled, she quietly snapped, Hey, ever heard of knocking? Can't you see a patient is trying to rest? he gestured gently. You have a visitor, the principal of Roneidel Daycare, your boss. Edna's eyes widened in shock, her face filled with panic at the news, and the air grew tense enough to suffocate. In her flustered state, she pleaded for help. Oh my God, you have to help me. The man beside her looked surprised and said, What? Apologize? What did you do to make her say that? Not wasting any time, Edna clutched her head in a panic and yelled, Stop making a scene. Quick, get me the dress in the closet. The night sky was quiet, with only the sound of hurried footsteps heading toward the building. Inside the warm, bright room, a gift box was placed on the table. A voice spoke up from there. Here, I've prepared some comfortable clothes for you and some tea to help with your recovery. Don't worry about the daycare, just take a few more days off. Hearing this, she quickly tried to refuse, her voice trembling slightly. Ma'am? No, principal, you really didn't have to do all this. But the principal simply smiled. Her voice was sharp, making it difficult for Edna to refuse. Don't say no, this is from the entire staff and the Parents Association. She gently took her hand, her voice soft. You've worked so very hard, you must be exhausted, right? Edna froze, her expression stiffening and her heart trembling. The principal. Then suddenly, she gave a mysterious smile, her voice laced with a hidden meaning. Oh, right, I heard that this was all because the Grand Temple made a mistake? The air suddenly grew cold. Question made her pause, her blue eyes widening in surprise. A mistake? Yes. We received an official notice from the Grand Temple. Hearing that, her anger flared. She clenched her fists, her eyes turning cold. How? Could they scare one of our teachers like that over such a careless mistake? Edna immediately panicked, stammering, It's really okay. Everyone makes mistakes. The key to social survival is to just act weak and gentle. The principal tilted her head slightly, her voice full of affection. You're always so kind, teacher. That's precisely why. After discussing it during the teachers' meeting, her voice rang out, bright and clear. Roneidel Daycare has decided to suspend its volunteer teaching program for the Grand Temple. The announcement hit her like a bombshell, causing her to freeze, her blue eyes wide with unconcealed shock. What? Suspend the program? The principal smiled calmly, her voice still gentle, just for now. That sight made Edna tremble as she thought to herself, she's actually scariest when she smiles like that. Unwilling to give up, she tried to speak, but shouldn't we at least continue sending the teaching materials? Many of the volunteers still don't know how to read. She sat up straight and replied nonchalantly, fine, but that's it. In the quiet room, someone's urgent voice called out, Edna, you have 2 more visitors. She jumped slightly, her blue eyes widening as she murmured, More visitors? The sound of rushing footsteps rang out, and before she could even process it, 2 figures appeared in front of Edna, the girl was wearing. In a yellow cloak, her eyes filled with worry, she spoke hastily. Teacher Epna, I came running as soon as I heard you were back. The person next to her chimed in, out of breath and with a voice trembling with emotion. Are you feeling better? I was so worried I couldn't sleep all night. In the warm light, one of them gently handed over a small gift box, saying with a smile, Here, please have some tofu. They say that on the Eastern continent, you're supposed to eat this after you're released. Surprised and moved, she replied, Oh my goodness, thank you. In a yellow cloak, her eyes filled with worry, she spoke hastily. Teacher Epna, I came running as soon as I heard you were back, enjoying tea and pastries. One of them exclaimed in surprise, Oh my, I can't believe they really took Teacher Epna away just like that. That's right, the Winchester family, I heard they've been banned from the Noble Council for 3 months. The atmosphere grew heavy, interspersed with whispered chatter. Oh my goodness, really? A soft voice continued. That family is as good as done for. Who would even invite them to a gathering now? The Emperor himself issued the ban. It's so awful to think about Teacher Epna being framed like that. Amidst the swirling rumors, she quietly sighed in relief to herself. Luckily, scary parents like us are always on your side. The woman maintained a calm expression, giving a slight nod. And so, teacher, she continued, her voice ringing out as if for the entire hall to hear, our Parents Association has also decided to halt all donations to the temple. She paused for a beat, then stated firmly, at least for now. Her words cut through the air like a knife, causing Epna to freeze in place. The scene immediately shifts outside, to a magnificent building under a clear blue sky. One by one, faces emerged, clear in the darkness. Behind the red velvet curtain, Epna gently peeked through, her vivid blue eyes gleaming, with a glint of light. She whispered, I can tell just by looking at their faces, that these 3 are still salty about the last school festival. Step. The festival curtain slowly rose, and brilliant, sparkling light flooded the auditorium as words appeared inside a dazzling gold frame. At last, this year's school festival performance officially begins. And then, 3 small children appeared, striking a pose in unison with their hands in the air. The steady beat of a drum rang out, as vibrant as the auditorium's collective heartbeat. The announcer's voice echoed, Before we begin the main performance, the children will present a cheer. The lively sound of brass horns rang out as a row of musicians raised their tiny horns in unison, playing the opening notes. The audience held its breath, their eyes shining bright and sparkling like gems. Amidst the dazzling light, Epna appeared, smiling gently. In her hand, a pinkish-purple magic orb glowed wondrously, radiating a mystical aura. Then, a confident and solemn voice rang out, shattering the silence. Well then, let the Roneidel festival begin. Instantly, the scene exploded with jubilation. A new day began with clear, fresh weather at the Roneidel Noble Kindergarten. A shriek of absolute delight from Epna rang out. Ah, so cute, unbearably cute. A tiny arm shot out decisively. At that moment on stage, all the children were performing a spectacular number in unison for the noble audience members below. Epna was tucked away in the wings, unable to contain her love for the children as she peeked out to watch their every move of theirs. Thank goodness the kids didn't forget the choreography while I was gone. How are they so perfectly in sync? This is how it should be. But just as she had that thought, the kids started to get into a conflict over Parkton's touch. Marilyn angrily turned to scold him. Parkton, not like that. You have to swing your hand like this. Martin also irritably swatted Jabo's hand away. Stop crying, be quiet. But that little kid wouldn't quiet down and instead cried even louder. Seeing this chaotic scene among the children, Epna's expression couldn't help but darken, as she thought, is it always going to be like this? Down in the audience, he crossed his arms and offered his praise. Our future princess is truly shining, even while dancing. How wonderful. Faced with his smug attitude, Johann also pretended to cover his mouth as he laughed. She's qualified enough to be the emperor. He cheerfully looked at him and added, well, that would be a problem, since I'm still alive and kicking. That reply of his made Johann just force a smile, while Epna thought to herself, there's still a cold draft blowing from over there. Oh, should I call that a form of comfort? On the stage, still bathed in the yellow spotlight, the little boy Vante suddenly seemed to lose his balance and tumble to the ground. Oh no. Epna's heart ached seeing that. Oh dear, Vante. She stood quietly in a corner to cheer Vante on, only for the little boy to keep falling, causing her to start feeling a bit helpless. But deep in her heart, Epna still placed a certain amount of trust in the child. Vante, it's okay to fall, but don't forget what your teacher always says. The most important thing is to never give up. And just like that, Epna's faith was not misplaced. Little Vante quickly stood up and, together with his friends, created a dazzling finale on stage. The moment their performance ended, applause and cheers erupted from the audience, echoing throughout the hall. Lose his balance and tumble to the ground. Oh no. Epna's heart ached seeing that. Oh dear, Vante. She stood quietly in a corner too. Where on earth did that kid learn those moves? A few seconds after the excited children headed backstage, it was time for a teacher like Epna to appear. So, parents, what did you think of the children's first number? I think it was truly adorable. Everyone in the audience agreed with her. All right, Epna continued on to the next performance, while also reminding everyone, okay parents, please sit back down in your seats. It's dangerous to stand up. A chorus of voices called out once more. Yes. She smiled and announced, next up is the choir performance. Please, enjoy the song that the children have practiced so very hard on. The excited cheers grew even louder. Yes, a soft and warm smile suddenly appeared on Caden's lips, which inevitably caught Epna's eye. Why is he smiling like that? He must be happy that Vante was able to get up. Oh, it's the choir's turn. I hope everyone will enjoy the rest of the performances as well. All of them, the different acts, just followed one after another. Before long, it was time for a play. Maxon held a plastic sword and said majestically, go and practice more. And then come back, you rookie. The plot of the play went something like this. The main character, Philip, challenged the strongest fighter, Maxon, but Philip, the weakest, was immediately and pathetically defeated. After being defeated, Philip lay sprawled on the floor. On the ground, he tried to reach out for the apple. What is this thing? Then he ate the fruit of the celestial tree, gaining strength. Just then, Marin suddenly appeared with a pair of wings on her back. She angrily criticized, hey, you idiot, that's not how you hold a sword. Are you brainless, you idiot? After special training with the spirit Marin, who was only serious when she was scolding others, the large sword suddenly plunged straight into the hard ground. Maxon struggled to lift his head and look up at his opponent. You've gotten stronger. Philip, still holding his sword firmly, continued, I didn't get stronger on my own. Strength alone. I have a great rival like you, and that mysterious tree gave me its fruit. So profound. But before the kid could finish his philosophical speech, he was yanked back by Marin. Hey Philip, why didn't you mention the spirit goddess? Don't you know how important a teacher's contribution is? Seeing her extremely furious face, Philip answered, a little scared. Teacher. Epna helplessly pulled the little girl Marie out of the argument and carefully reminded her, a proper spirit doesn't go around grabbing people by the collar, even though she was already in her arms. But Marie continued to struggle. Philip is such an idiot. A total idiot. Ha! It was at that moment that I truly felt that I was back as the teacher of the sunshine class. The chaotic performance at the kindergarten finally came to a close. Warm sunlight gently shone down into the kindergarten's library through the window, where the conversation of FNA and the other teachers was taking place. Miss FNA, if you lived like a sparrow, would that be happiness? That gloomy face replied, that's right. You wouldn't have to go to work. You could build your own house without spending a dime. Edna suddenly changed the subject, her voice somewhat weary. Most importantly, you wouldn't have to prepare for the upcoming Children's Day event. Children's Day, just like in other countries, this empire also has a day for children. Now there's nowhere left to run. Stop avoiding it. Let's start the meeting to prepare for the event. Hearing her say this, the other teachers in the school all slumped helplessly onto the table. One of them asked, a bit confused, can't we just do the tour of the puppet troupe from last year again? Fna slowly explained to her, I already checked, but they got famous by word of mouth. So now they're touring the entire continent. I just looked into a few other places that we can book. While the teachers were still talking, the principal walked into the room. Oh my, you ladies are already in the middle of a meeting? Seeing her, they all prepared to stand up to greet her. Hello, principal, but she shook her head and said, it's all right, everyone stay seated. I just came here to intro. introduce our new teacher's assistant, Mr. Flores. Come on in." Hearing this name, a thought immediately popped into Epna's head. Flores? That's a man's name. It's rare to see a male teacher, really special, especially in this kind of medieval setting. The principal introduced him to everyone. Since he's strong, just use him to carry heavy things. He's a teacher/work mule. As soon as the man named Flores entered the room, her gaze became captivated. That person, the new kindergarten teacher, Mr. Flores, with a muscular body that revealed toned, firm, and defined muscles. He spoke up, annoyed. "What is this?" Miss Fna observed the man and thought, a person. A farmer, a lumberjack. Is he really a teacher? She was even more shocked when she saw his abs, peeking out from the man carrying an axe, thinking to herself in stunned disbelief. That body was too perfect to just be called muscles from manual labor. All the teachers in the meeting room were so shocked their jaws dropped, their faces blushing beet red with embarrassment. Teacher Epna wanted to say something, but she couldn't get a word out. She flinched when she heard the principal smack him, along with a scolding. "Good heavens, this kid. What in the world are you wearing, and why did you bring an axe here?" He grimaced, turning to her and saying, "Oh, come on, I just finished chopping wood and came straight here. What's the big deal?" Her face darkened as she warned him, "Show some respect for the other teachers. Apologize to them, right now," he said with an annoyed look. "Apologize? I can't stand this heat." The principal ignored him and lifted her dress as she walked towards the teachers in the meeting, saying, "I apologize for that, ladies. This is Florist, my nephew. He's just a little childish." Teacher Epna flinched slightly as she replied to the principal. That was certainly a bit of a shock. The principal, with her glasses on and a hand under her chin, smiled brightly and continued, "He's strong and smart, so don't hesitate to give him work. In fact, he's probably easier to handle than the kids in the Dawn class." She looked at the principal, feeling a bit awkward and putting on a professional smile, replying to her, "Yes, ma'am." She turned to him and continued, "All right, let's start with the introductions." But as she spoke, he was already gone, creating a bafflingly awkward moment in the conversation. He had simply turned and walked away, still carrying his axe, leaving her to angrily call after him, "Florist! Florist! Florist! Oh no, my knee!" It seemed the principal's knee was acting up, so she quickly hiked up her dress and said to her, "Let me go." "Principal." She chased after him, calling out, "Mr. Florist," while thinking, how does he walk so fast? She finally caught up and grabbed the corner of his shirt by his elbow, saying, "Can we talk for a moment?" He scowled in annoyance, yelling as he violently yanked his arm away from her grasp. "Ugh, you're so annoying!" She was taken aback by his action and lost her footing, causing her to stumble backward. He spun around and caught her just in time, saving her from hitting the ground. The scene was somewhat romantic, but the air between them grew even more awkward. Still holding her, he scowled with a hint of embarrassment and shouted, "Are you made of paper? I barely did anything and you fell?" She frowned too, looking at him and retorting, "Of course I fell. You pulled away so hard. What kind of strength is that?" At the same moment, both of them realized that his hand was still placed on her waist, so they both quickly leaped away from each other. He was flustered but still yelled, "I didn't mean to catch you. Stop following me." Though her face was beet red with embarrassment, she shouted back at him, "Excuse me, but I have no desire to follow you either." Then, she extended her hand toward him and said, "Shouldn't we at least exchange names?" His hands went to his hips as he glanced at her outstretched hand and asked, "What for?" She smiled brightly and replied, "Because it's the bare minimum of courtesy, expected of a teacher. Now, repeat after me. I'm Florist. It's a pleasure to meet you. You." I frowned at her bright smile. "Why should I do that?" she answered, still smiling brightly. "Like I said, it's basic courtesy, and besides, I'm your superior. It'll be much easier for you if you get along with me." She smiled brightly as she said these words. The aura of authority around her made her shine even brighter. He stood with his hands on his hips, looking at her outstretched hand and seemed to still be hesitating over her words. She smiled brightly at him and spoke. He glanced away in thought, then leaned in to shake her hand and said loudly in embarrassment, "Florence, it's a pleasure to meet you." After shaking her hand, he bolted without a trace, making her smiling face freeze in surprise and confusion. "Instructor Florist, I don't know how spoiled you were growing up, but in the days that followed it seemed he was always avoiding her. The moment he saw her, he'd say, 'I've got to go.' She, carrying a stack of documents, turned back to him. 'Instructor Florist, didn't you say that too? Day you'd be working overtime?' he said as he rushed past her. 'I said that? Don't remember.' She turned and yelled after him, 'You promised you'd review the teaching samples with me.' He kept walking away with his back to her and said, 'The director gave me an errand, so I have to go.' She watched him run off like a cat afraid of a beating, her face darkening with anger. He's really the type of person who's hard to approach, especially the way he always disappears the moment he sees me. Her whole demeanor turned gloomy as she muttered, 'At this rate, forget about guiding him. I can't even have a proper conversation. Whatever, I'll just get back to work.' The afternoon faded into evening with the shimmering rays of sunset peeking through. She was sitting in the room, working diligently and muttering to herself, 'Let's see, I just need to finish up this pile of paperwork,' and when she looked up and noticed someone had entered the room, the red-haired emperor of the empire, smiling as he walked into the room. 'There you are.' She turned to look at him and asked, 'Your Majesty, what are you doing here?' He approached her desk and leaned against the edge of it, answering her question, 'How could I not come when my little brother's tutor is being treated so poorly and overworked? Not to mention, she's also responsible for the future of the empire.' He looked at her with a dazzling and sharp smile, as always. 'My little brother's teacher, She stood up to make him some tea and said, "That's always your excuse to drop by. Let me make some tea for you." He watched her with a smile, his arms crossed. "No sugar for me, thanks." As she was making the tea, she heard a sound and thought to herself, "Footsteps? But all the other teachers have gone home already. Wait, these footsteps are so fast." A loud call came from a man, Instructor Florence. He pushed the door open, holding a thick red book in one hand, the other on his hip, looking into the room, at a loss for words. He slowly approached her work desk and said to himself, "Her bag is still in the teacher's lounge. I even went out of my way to buy those teaching samples. Could she have just gone to the restroom?" She hid to the side, at a loss for words, anxiously watching him stand in front of her desk and thinking, "Instructor Florist, didn't he already clock out for the day? Why is he suddenly acting so diligent? Even if I don't care. He should at least explain himself." Hiding in the same corner with her was the Emperor of the Empire. The two of them were in a suggestive position, her mind filled with complicated thoughts, confusion clear in her eyes, and thoughts running through her. "Head, why is the Emperor here? Please, just for once, go home on time." He stood by the desk, rubbing, and said, "Whatever, I don't want that much attention on me anyway, and keeping tabs on that teacher is a huge pain." She heard him and got angry, thinking, "What's wrong with my personality? Is there a problem?" Then, the door clicked shut, and he spoke to her. "It seems I can leave now." Hearing him, she felt a bit awkward and said, "You must have been uncomfortable. My apologies for being so abrupt." He looked at her and said, "Teacher." She looked up as he leaned down, their eyes meeting, which surprised her. He asked, "Am I making you feel embarrassed?" She looked at him in confusion and said, "Pardon me. No, Your Majesty is a treasure of the nation, our central pillar." He looked at her, put his hand on her head, made a fist, and declared, "Such insolence, off with your head." Hearing him say that, she panicked and cried out, "What?" She felt dizzy and fearfully tried to explain, "No, what I meant was, technically, touching the Emperor's body is a capital offense, but what is all this about?" He looked at her dazed expression, then raised a hand to cover his smile. "I was just joking, teacher. How could I possibly kill a precious talent of the Empire?" Hearing him, she almost had a heart attack, thinking, what kind of joke is that for an emperor to make? Then she said to him, "Right, of course it was a joke, just a joke." As they came out from their hiding spot, she continued, "You really don't have a sense of humor at all, Your Majesty." He chuckled, stepping out from behind the bookshelf. "Well, since I'm good at so many things, it's fine to be bad at one, right?" He crossed his arms and looked at her, continuing, "Judging by the look on your face, it seems you need some medicine other than poison." He glanced towards the door. "I'll have my royal guard prepare it by tomorrow." Surprised, she looked at him. "Your Majesty, is something the matter?" Instead of answering, he just said, "I will come another time." Confused, she watched him turn away and called out, "Your Majesty." He replied over his shoulder, "Something urgent came up. You're leaving now? What about your escort? They'll follow from a distance." Without revealing themselves, she escorted him out of the school, bowing a full 90 degrees. "Please have a safe journey, Your Majesty." "Safely, Your Majesty." She straightened up and fell into thought. "That's strange, from his expression just now. I feel like I sensed some killing intent, a murderous aura." Scene change. The principal looked at her and said, "The student, Aristide of the Hasbun family, has suddenly stopped attending school." Standing in front of the principal's desk, she said, "Yes, we've sent multiple letters requesting her return to school, but we have yet to receive a response. To attend, but we still haven't gotten a reply." That girl, Aristide Hasbun, in her memory, she was the original story's main villainess, in the original story, but since she started attending kindergarten like normal, I thought everything would be fine. The principal continued, "But it's still the beginning of the semester. Missing even a few days is a serious issue, and with Children's Day approaching, Miss Epna, that leaves us with only one option. Yes, we'll have to do it, a home visit." She thought to herself, "So, I have to go to the Duke Hasbun's estate again. Maybe the principal felt bad about making me work overtime, so she assigned an assistant to accompany me, but..." The assistant sighed. "Geez, it's the weekend. I was supposed to have the day off." Hearing this, she got annoyed. Frankly, I would have preferred to go alone. Mr. Florist, the assistant who came with her, was that guy. "Since you get carriage sick so easily, we have to walk half the way." She laughed awkwardly and said to him, "You look pretty happy about walking, don't you, sir?" She recalled how, just moments ago on the road, he was grumbling, "I'm going to lose my gains walking like this. Speed up here, slow down there." Slow down, which made her want to smack him. Back in the present, she pointed at him and said, "Balance your upper and lower body." This and that, my ears were about to bleed. He put his hands on his hips and retorted, "Your ears aren't bleeding, are they? We still made it to the carriage station safely." The man in the hat standing behind her said loudly, "Next, we're all set. Where to?" He yawned lazily. She smiled and replied, "To the Hasbun residence, please. 3011. A childish voice rang out, "That's my teacher." She turned to see a little girl with pink hair running toward her with a bright smile. She said, "Oh my gosh, Mylan!" The little girl said loudly, "Teacher and Mr. Florist are here too." She asked caringly, "Mylan, were you just out playing?" The little girl replied with a bright smile, "I was out playing with my uncle, the priest." Meanwhile, a certain priest looked completely exhausted, as if all his energy had been drained, trailing behind her. The little girl continued to say cheerfully to her, "I wanted to play more, but I think I want to go home now. Are you two teachers going out to play?" "No. How should I put this?" he said. "We're going to a friend's house. Would you like to come along?" The little girl got excited. "A friend? She turned to him, frowning and whispering, "Mr. Florist." The little girl continued to chirp, "Mylan loves friends." "I'm coming." The priest, trailing behind her, bowed and said to them, "I apologize for the trouble. I'll entrust her to you two. Don't worry, we'll make sure she gets home safely." Below the grand mansion, the inner monologue continued. "We've finally arrived at Duke Hasbun's mansion." Another childish voice rang out, "Teacher Epna, you're here! I've been waiting for you!" Oh my, she came to greet us herself. A cute little girl with pigtails, wearing a frilly princess dress and holding a lovely floral parasol, began to speak. "You are esteemed guests. I, Aristia, had to welcome you personally. It is the duty of a noble to respect one's teachers." She bent down to speak to the little girl. "Aristia, you are so bright, thank you. You've also prepared sweet tea, but I can only entertain you two as the young lady of the house. I hate to say this, but our household is allergic to ugliness." Aristia said this while looking at Mylan, causing the little girl's bright smile to freeze on her face. The two teachers' expressions darkened immediately, a bit awkwardly. She thought, right, this girl is the villain of the whole story, and I let these two rivals meet face to face. Mylan innocently peeked out from behind her dress, asking, "What's an allergy?" The white-haired butler spoke respectfully to Aristia. "Young lady, allow me to show them the way." Then, the little girl held her parasol and said haughtily, "They are esteemed guests, so I'll leave them in your care. As for these two adults..." She didn't finish her sentence, but thought to herself, "I should have forced one of them to stay." She pushed a confused Mylan forward, who had no idea what was going on, in front of Aristia and said, "Aristia, it's not good to say such mean things to a friend. You should greet her politely, shouldn't you?" "I'll do it because you asked, teacher." "Welcome, you ugly thing." Mylan looked stunned, her voice trembling. "Mylan knows what ugly means." The little girl thrashed angrily in Mr. Florist's arms. The butler led the three of them inside, saying awkwardly, "The drawing room is this way, teachers." "Yes, thank you." Aristia sat down and introduced in a magnificent room. "This is an aromatic tea imported from abroad, teachers." "Thank you, Aristia. Your parents are away, is that right?" "Yes, my mother told me to take very good care of you. You're so grown up, already knowing how to host guests." The teacher also had something she wanted to ask Aristia directly. While those two were chatting pleasantly, over here, Mylan spotted a plate of cake, her eyes lighting up as she practically drooled. She was saying, "What happened? Why did you stop coming to kindergarten?" When Aristia pushed the plate of cream cake over to Mylan, "Oh dear, my cake looks a little funny. I guess I'll give it to the ugly kid." Melon was staring at the cake, covetously. The teacher watched Aristia and thought, she's dodging the question. She continued to ask, "Why? Didn't you come to kindergarten? You don't want to go?" Seeing Aristia look sad and unwilling to answer, Melon, with one hand, holding his cupcake and the other propped on his chair, crossed his legs and said, "Hey Aristia, do you think kindergarten is some kind of playground? A place you can go to when you feel like it and skip when you don't, huh?" The teacher looked at Melon helplessly and thought, this kid. "Where did you learn to talk like a little old man?" Aristia shouted angrily. "How rude." While eating, Melon continued, "You're just running away from your responsibilities." "You are, Aristia. If you keep this up, you'll grow up to be an ugly person, unless you have some super important reason for it." Aristia stammered, I do have a real reason. It's because..." Thank you for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel to support us and never miss the latest episodes. We hope you have a relaxing and fun time. See you in the next video, and thanks for watching.